Have you ever woken up on a Monday morning, staring at the ceiling, wishing the clock would just stop ticking? That feeling in the pit of your stomach, the dread of another day at a job you hate? This is the story of a man who felt exactly the same way, until something terrifying changed his life forever. Meet Elias Crow, quiet, ordinary office worker in Manchester. Every single day he'd drag himself into his 9-to-5 job, sit in a gray cubicle, and work for a boss who barely even remembered his name. Elias wasn't lazy, not at all. He was just ... empty inside. His real dream was to paint, to create, to truly live. But instead, his days were spent filing reports and answering meaningless emails. He was a ghost in his own life. One rainy evening, after another long and exhausting day, Elias decided to stay late at the office to catch up. The building was nearly empty, an eerie silence broken only by the hum and flicker of the fluorescent lights above. It was in that silence that he heard footsteps in the hallway. They were slow, deliberate, and echoed in the empty space. "Hello?" Elias called out, his voice sounding small. There was no answer. He cautiously peered around the corner of his cubicle row, and his blood ran cold. A man in a long dark coat was standing right by his desk. The stranger's face was pale, almost gray, and his eyes were dark, like hollow pits. He didn't say a word, just slowly raised a hand and pointed a long, bony finger at Elias's computer screen. Elias's gaze followed, and there, glowing on the monitor, were the words, "You are wasting the life you were given." Elias froze, his heart pounding against his ribs. He blinked, and just like that, the man was gone, vanished. Without a second thought, Elias grabbed his things and ran out of that office, vowing never to stay late again. But the encounter followed him home. That night, he had the most vivid and terrifying dream of his life. He saw himself, but he was old, weak, lying on a stark hospital bed. With a rattling breath, his older self whispered, "I never lived my life. I only survived it." And then, a voice, deep and thundering, filled the dream. "Time is the real horror. Fear is the real prison. Break free before it buries you." Elias woke up with a jolt, his pillow wet with tears. He knew deep in his bones this wasn't just a nightmare. It was a final warning. The next morning, for the first time in years, Elias didn't get on the train to his office. Instead, he walked to the back of his closet, pulled out an old dust-covered canvas, and began to paint. He had no idea how he'd pay his bills or what the future held for him. But one thing was crystal clear. He refused to spend another single day living in chains, a prisoner of his own routine. Elias Crow went on to become a painter. His work, born from that moment of terror and realization, touched the lives of thousands. And whenever people asked him what made him leave his stable 9-to-5 job, he'd just smile and say, because the real horror wasn't seeing a ghost in the office, it was the ghost of the life I was failing to live. Sometimes the universe sends us signs in strange, even frightening ways. If you're feeling stuck, trapped in a job or a life that drains you, remember Elias's story. Your life is far too precious and far too short to waste on just surviving. Take one small step, just one award, what sets your soul on fire. Because the real fear isn't failure. The real fear is looking back one day, filled with regret. For more powerful and life-changing stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. Your support helps us bring more of these messages to the world. Thank you for watching.